And I think it's very sad that a lot of us don't really know how to fight Jihad al-Nafs, especially because it's so important in our lives. It's the most important war we fight. And that's exactly what this video aims to do today, to stop these things from happening, to destroy this ability for just one day or one mislapse to get you back into that hole that you wanted to climb out of, inshallah. So we're going to go through a step-by-step guide of how to fight Jihad al-Nafs. And wallahi, these are things from my course that I'm releasing soon. Like, these lessons that I bring are straight from the course. They're one of the best lessons, like the most important things in there. So inshallah, it's going to bring you benefit, because I know that I could make other things, but giving you the real sauce is what's going to help you out. And that's where I went to go extract it from. So inshallah, if you're interested in the value that will come from this video, then check out the course. It will be out soon, inshallah. Subscribe to the channel if you want any news on that, and subscribe to the channel if you want to watch any more videos like that. But with any further ado, I just want to introduce myself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Sultan. I make videos for brothers who want to progress in the deen and the dunya. And our journey and mission here at the Sultanate is that we want to annihilate weakness in the males of the ummah. We want to build them up. We want to make them strong, assist them in their journey to becoming a rajul, and we're all striving to that, as well as annihilate the sins that we commit as males of the ummah. And yeah, let's get into the video with the real sauce, the real step-by-step guide, every information, everything you need to fight Jihad al-Nafs more effectively. Chapter 1 is the mindset. The first mindset you need to understand is that this is a fight to the death. I think a lot of us are we're in a state of ghafla, we're in a state of forgetfulness. We believe sometimes we get lost in the glitter of the dunya, we think it's real, we think it's this. This entire dunya, this whole beautiful thing, subhanallah, everything that Allah has created, it's a testing ground for this war that you fight. This is that crucial. There's no rest. Whether you're awake or asleep, this war goes on. When you're awake, you're fighting Jihad al-Nafs, as you know, your desires, you're fighting the cues, you're fighting it all, and you're fighting the waswasa. But then when you go to sleep, you know that shaitan is in your dreams, if he wants to scare you, to make the haram loved to you, to make your soul soft towards the things that Allah hates. It's like a never-ending journey until the day you die. And understand that this war is not just something normal, it's not just something simple. Again, I want to reiterate, this is the war for your soul. The war for your soul. This war either gets you to Jannah or Jahannam. There's two roads that this war leads you to. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those in Jannah. Ameen. Right? None of us want to enter Jahannam. But if you fight this war and you fail constantly, it can even lead you to kufr. I mean, Allah protect us from that as well. But my point is, that's why we have to be successful. That's why we have to be so aware of what's going on. And a lot of us are not educated on Jihad al-Nafs and the war that we fight every single day, constantly. But I want you to accept it, because you have two choices now. I'm mentally preparing you, I'm being harsh, because you have two choices. The first choice is you fight, and the second choice is you surrender. So what are you going to choose? Because this war is not going to end. You can close your eyes, akhi, you can try your best to go to sleep, it still doesn't end. So either you can be a jundallah and you choose to fight, or you're going to be one who wants to just surrender, and you hope for the best. That's what most people do. Most people, they think this war is too hard. To fight their nafs, to fight the haram, is too hard. So they're just gonna let it go. And you know, Allah is the most merciful. And that's true, but that's not how we're meant to do things. We have to fight, man. So make that choice. You're gonna fight. So yes, the enemy doesn't sleep. Yes, he's really good at his job. Has he been working on this ummah for 1,400 years, building this empire? Yes. Has he been fighting entire humanity since the time of Adam alayhi salam to right now until the day of Qiyamah? Yes. Just because the empire is big doesn't mean we cannot win. Because a lot of us also enter the state of like giving up. We think it's too hard. La. How many times has an army of Allah defeated a bigger army? Just yesterday I was teaching my sibling the story of Dawood alayhi salam. Think about that story. A young boy with a slingshot defeated the biggest guy. That's what we can do. You've been living in haram for so long, in silent. Like, you haven't told anyone. You've been living in haram, for example, watching haram for so long that you don't even know what it's like not to watch it. There is a way, there is a you who doesn't watch this, bro. There is a you who doesn't listen to music. There is a you away from these haram things. Wallahi, I'm telling you, there is a version of you. It's real. If you commit to this war, it can happen, inshallah. As much as the empire is strong, we have Allah. And that's all we need at the end of the day. Point number 2, and mindset number 2, is allies and enemy. I think a lot of us don't do well in Jihad al-Nafs because we don't really know how it works. It's this fight that's in the unseen world, it's in the seen world, it's inside of us. It's kind of like blending everything at the same time. We kind of just get lost. And so we don't really know what to do. And so lots of kuffar creators will call this stage of Jihad al-Nafs, it's called the urges, right? Or the craving stage. That's where Jihad al-Nafs starts. I'm going to call this urge stage, the feeling you're feeling craving, the void stage. This is the void of Jihad al-Nafs. There are two parties, and there's the allies and the enemies. The enemies are the party of shaitan. The party of shaitan is filled with the qareen of the shayateen. Other shayateen, you also have your lower nafs, right? Your lower desires. Then you have the party of Allah. These are your allies. You have a qareen of the angels who's going to whisper things that are good for you. You have your aql. This is your intellect of the spirit, right? This is your reasoning capacity to the haqq. You have your ruh. This is the part of you that yearns for Allah, that yearns to please Allah. Because there's those moments where sometimes you're just so stuck in haram and you're just tired, bro. You just want to please Allah, right? And that's what we're talking about. So there's these two completely distinct parties, and Allah is a part of His own party. You just didn't call upon Him normally, but yeah, you can also be there. And you're also a part of Allah's party, right? If you choose to be. You can be a part of the party of shaitan or the party of Allah. And we're going to go more in depth in that in the end of the video. It's the most important thing, so wait for that. But anyway, now we know our enemy. Enemy is the lower nafs, the part of us that desires things, the shayateen. So just pro tip, this is not in the script, this is really good though. When you're fighting jihad al-nafs, there's lots of voices. And it's going to be really hard out of Ramadan especially to distinguish your nafs from shayateen, and your ruh from your aql and the angel and you. Just focus on separating good and bad. Focus on what da'wah they're bringing to you. If the da'wah is to do haram and to please yourself, reject it. If the da'wah is to come closer to Allah and to fight the haram, accept it, right? Then you know which voice is which. Because it can get very confusing very quickly. Because some of the parts of you are inside of you, then there's external waswasa, and it's like a whole thing. So if we just separate these conglomerates, we can make it less confusing. In this in-between, what will start happening is, like I said, you'll get the bad da'wah and the good da'wah. So what will happen is you get soothing waswasa from shaitan. Immediately, let's say you have a craving to watch haram. Immediately, the lower desire starts. I want, it starts rattling. Think of it as like a barking dog. Think of it like a rattling cage. And then the soothing waswasa comes and just makes it so beautiful and so nice. And don't worry, Allah's going to forgive you and no one's watching and all these things. It's going to make it so beautiful. And then you have the other side, which is going to say no, but then you're going to be farther from Allah. And then it's not going to be good. This is going to be your aql. Then you're going to have waswasa from the angel saying that this is not good, etc. Then you're going to have your ruh feeling bad and having this negative feeling towards this thing, or pulling you away. And so that's what it's going to feel like in jihad al-nafs, your allies and your enemies. So at least now we know which da'wah is whose, how do we separate it, and this is the allies and the enemies of, jihad al-nafs. We have to know the strategy of war. We have to know the landscape of war to win it. We can't just be blind to it. That's important about this lesson. The response and the reward will vary. You see that in many videos of haram habits, I'll talk a lot about how your response and your reward is with Allah or with your nafs and shaitan. And that's totally true. You'll fight jihad al-nafs. You'll fight this, and we'll talk more about in the fight. You're either gonna get the reward from shaitan, which is nothing, the reward of your pleasure, or you're gonna get the reward from Allah. Strive for that reward from Allah. And I just want to remind you about your enemy, right? Know your enemy. It's very important. Your enemy hates you. Hates you. He wants you. If you could commit kufr today, overjoyed you would be. The enemy. Shayateen. Overjoyed. Wallah, if you just gave up your deen, and you gave up your grind, you gave up everything that's good for you, he'd love it for you. And remember that whatever he says, lies. He lies. Shaitan lies, the shayateen lie. Think of the story of that monk. I think his name is Barsissa or something. Where he tells him to commit kufr and he's going to help him. He lied. He committed kufr. He said, bye. That's shaitan. That's the enemy. That's shayateen. Everything they say is a lie. Everything they say doesn't have to be real. So remember, your enemy hates you and he's always lying to you. So remember that next time you're fighting jihad al-nafs. Chapter 2. What are the nafs? I think everyone speaks about the nafs. Nafs this, nafs that. Then there's a lot of bid'ah. So I did a lot of work trying to figure out what they are. Like, it took me a long time to figure it out. But it's very important to understand our nafs and the situation that we're in. So the nafs, the self, the desires, they work with archetypes. So there's two parts to these archetypes. There's the aggregate and there's the during the day. So you can move through all these different states through the day, depending what you're doing. Is it hard? Yeah. But like even in a week, you can move through all three states of them. But as an aggregate score, I'm going to be grouping certain people in aggregates, right? Because if you do something most of the time, if you're in the state most of the time, I'll call you this, right? And so the first group of nafs, the first group of people is the nafs al-amara bis-su, of the commanding self, the evil self, right? I think my favorite name for it is the cattle-like nafs, because it's so insulting, and it's true. The cattle-like nafs is like, they're a bestial self. So the human being is made up of two different parts of itself. This bestial part and this precious, this more, I wouldn't say out of this world, but like more, spiritually inclined self. So there's the one that just wants to do the simple animalistic things and the some greater purpose self. So this animalistic part of yourself, it just wants very simple things. And most of the people live in this state. Most of the people you see on the street, they're all cows, they're all cattle, right? Because why? They forgot themselves. They forgot their purpose here. They're just animals living an animalistic existence. They want sex, food, water, and sleep. And if you're a really very special animal, then you'll be a predatory. You have predatory nafs, which is to conquer. So you see these billionaires who just keep getting more and more and more money for no reason. It's like you're just feeding your nafs. You're just a special animal. Well done. You're still an animal. Nothing special about you. And then there's also the evil nafs, right? The evil part of these desires in the self, which will be the evil actions that you want to commit, like lying, causing discord, all these things. These are desires in the lower self, right? And the people who do this as an aggregate, they are nafs al-amara, right? They have nafs al-amara. Most kuffar, munafiq, and unpracticing Muslims, they live in the stage. They literally live like animals. There's no spiritual purpose. There's nothing greater. There's no morality. It's just whatever my nafs want, I will do it. And I want to just talk about something about these nafs. It's like it's not even a black hole. It's an empty hole. It's a paradox. It doesn't even do anything. There's nothing even to feed it. But it still wants more. That's the nafs. You're going to fuel it. And you feel this when you do a lot of pleasure. Even now when I'm desensitized to a lot of pleasure, like, social media, etc. When I go back on these things, it's like, it feels like I just filled an empty hole. It doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't even do anything. And the second is nafs al-lawama. Now, nafs al-lawama is the stage of your nafs where most of us are in. Most of us are in the stage where it's called the reproaching self. So when you reproach yourself, you're kind of like you're scolding yourself. This is because you feel guilty. So this is the person who has iman. He has this precious part of himself, this spiritual part of himself, and he tries to progress in deen and dunya. However, he has shadows and little holes that he fails in. So it's a struggle between the righteous and the desiresness, right? The desiresness. Righteousness to desiresness. What? Righteousness to desires. And basically, you're in the struggle where you want to be righteous. You want to get away from this haram, and sometimes you fail. And that feeling guilty is good because nafs al-amara, they're desensitized to the sins. You ever speak to kuffar, they don't even see that they're doing something wrong. It's so desensitized in their mind. Oh, you just drink these special poison and you get absolutely intoxicated every single week on a daily basis. Yeah, it's wonderful. What? Like, it's so desensitizing, right? That they don't even feel the pain of being away from Allah. May Allah protect us from that. That's like a horrible punishment. Astaghfirullah. And then the third stage is nafs al-mutma'inna. Nafs al-mutma'inna is the contented self, because it's contented because it's going to Jannah, right? And this is the self that is not, it doesn't care about worldly desires. It really doesn't care. That's not what touches this heart. This heart, this self, it's so purified that all it cares about is that's why it's called angel-like as well, where it just cares about pleasing Allah and following Allah's commands. That's what brings it pleasure. And even nafs al-lawama, we don't feel that true connection with the Quran because we still have pleasure from other places. The more you deny pleasure from the immediate and the more you want delayed gratification, the more you'll feel the Quran, the more you'll feel the deen. Nafs al-mutma'inna is the goal. We want to get here, where worldly desires doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is pleasing Allah. We have moments of this. Again, we can move up and down and up and down. If you're pleasuring your nafs too much, you're going to be in nafs al-amara, and then you feel guilty and your nafs al-lawama and you're fighting, and then your nafs al-mutma'inna because you feel this contented self. So when you have khushu', when you are close to Allah, when it's just you and Allah, when the dunya dissipates, when you're crying to Allah and you literally feel His presence, that's when you're nafs al-mutma'inna. That's when you're just concerned with Allah's pleasure. Literally. Nothing else matters. So imagine that all the time. Insha'Allah. These are the three types of nafs. So now we know how long we're fighting this war, which is forever. We know who we're fighting with and against, and we know who we are fighting in this war. Now let's get into how to actually fight the war practically, which I think nobody talks about. And this is the thing that people really need. Like, this is stuff that helps. And I'm not gonna lie, I am gonna give you the sauce, okay? This is the real sauce. This is from the course. Like, this is a really important lesson. So inshallah, if you just pay attention, they're gonna help you out a lot, because it helped me out with my own shortcomings a lot. Okay, let's get into it. I'll stop making you guys wait. Chapter 3, how to fight Jihadul Nafs. Point number 1, which is the most important thing. This changed it for me. Actively fight. Okay? Actively fight Jihadul Nafs. A lot of us were victims. We just sit there and we have these desires and you just watch the two parties fight for you. You're just watching the fight for your soul and you're doing nothing. You think, oh, it's too hard. I'm just not gonna. Most people think it's too hard to fight Jihad al-Nafs, so they let it happen. We don't want to be those men. We want to be a Rijal. Well, then you gotta fight Jihad al-Nafs yourself. You gotta be brave. You gotta stand against Shaitan actively. When you're in the void stage, what you're gonna do is the first ounce of waswasa. When you feel that the war is starting, like you feel that craving, immediately close your eyes and visualize yourself. Not like manifesting. No, I'm not talking about that. Just visualize. Why? Because it's gonna send subconscious signals to your entire body that we're in a state of war, which is what I want. I want you to imagine yourself in Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah's parable. His parable is basically that Shaitan and his army is surrounding a fortress, and in the fortress there's a king. The king is the qalb, right? The spiritual heart, and that king is what Shaitan wants. And so there's all these different layers and armies and soldiers, which is the different parts of the party of Allah, which are fighting against the army, right? And so the king, you can be there's two types of kings. There's the king that's a coward that lets his soldiers fight for him, and then there's a king who's a man, a leader who's a man like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who would fight the war himself. Badr, Uhud, he was there, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fighting hard in the thick of battle. Same thing comes with different leaders of the time, generals like Khalid ibn Walid, radiallahu anhu, right? These are the type of men we want to be, fighting the battles from the front. That's what we need to be. In your parable, your visualization. Remember, step one is you wait for the visualization time, which is when the void starts, which is when the desire starts. You visualize yourself as the king. So you can think about how you dress. For me, in my mind, I think of myself looking like an Ottoman sultan just because of the name, and I just enjoy the dress. So the big onion head hat thingy with the red thingy, and I see myself with a turban. I see myself wearing king's clothes. Just the point is, you're supposed to see yourself as the king, and you stand from the throne, and in my visualization, I see myself grabbing a sword, running through the battle, right? Because that's how it's supposed to be. And so what you're sending as subconscious signals to your entire body is that we're in a state of war. Point is, you imagine yourself as the king, fighting war, and the next thing you do is the second attack will come. Shaitan will come in the next waswasa. And for some reason, this is what I do, and it works. I like hold my hand in a fist. I think it's because I also send myself subconscious signals that I'm gonna fight, and that kind of keeps me in a state of like strength and like rigidness. I just shout no, or I say no. I don't even want to hear the waswasa. I don't want to know. No, it's not happening. No, I'm not gonna do it. It's like in Ramadan, we do this, but we don't realize that. In Ramadan, it's Ramadan. No, it's not happening, right? I'm gonna break my fast. For some reason, we can't do that in real life. I think it's because it's hard to sustain it the entire year. But if we do this and use this practical thing again, it helps. So the visualization thing, no, right? And the fist. And immediately what you do is after that, you remember Allah. If you bring taqwa into you can, bro. You can in your right mind, really. And even if you could, call upon Allah. There's some places you can't, but call upon Allah. Because at this point, you've just strengthened the party of Allah to its entire maximum limit. You, Allah Azza wa Jal, which is all you really needed. Everyone else against shaitan and your nafs, bro, it's not going to be a fair fight. And so, if you're successful in this, you've just brought yourself back to taqwa. You cannot, in your right mind, do something like that in front of Allah. Right? You're remembering, you're actively trying to remember Allah. And that you've repelled the first attack of the shayateen. When was the last time you repelled the attack of the shayateen? Only in Ramadan. But especially, I'm making this video specifically in Ramadan because I think a lot of people on like the 16, 17, 18 day, they're going to start getting, serious waswasa from their own nafs. I'm going to relay it again because it's super important. First thing you do is you feel the desire and you visualize yourself as the king getting up with the sword. However you want to dress. You want to dress like Saladin, you want to dress like Ottoman sultans, I don't care, it really doesn't matter. Visualize yourself, sword, and after that, you hold your hand in a fist and you say no. You just keep saying no until the voice stops. After that, remember Allah. And that is the protocol. Right? That should be the end of it. If not, start again. Visualize again, you fighting in the thick of battle. Fist, no, Allah. Constant. And enough time should bring you back to a state of taqwa and a state of strength that you should not be falling into this. And inevitably, when you do fall for it, because we're human, and every child of Adam sins, just make istighfar or tawbah. That's all that matters, as long as you repent and fight again. Point number 2 is hypertrophy of the heart. I have a whole module for this, right? And you can check it out in the course soon, Insha'allah. What can I say about this? Hypertrophy of the heart is this process of progressively overloading your heart and the acts to strengthen your heart, so that you can have a stronger connection to Allah, so that your heart hates what Allah hates and loves what Allah loves, right? So that when you go into Jihad al-Nafs, you don't just go into a fight. You first have to strengthen your heart. You gotta strengthen your army. And you gotta strengthen yourself. And the only thing you fight Jihad al-Nafs with is your qalb, your spiritual qalb. And so you cannot let it have deficiencies. You have to board it up. You have to strengthen it first before you fight the war. And so when it comes to this, I would say in terms of tips, choose ibadah, not like just salah and stuff like that. Of course, that's important, but choose ibadah that is directly tied to a connection with Allah. Like it's nothing physical. It's all to do with the heart. Things like sabr, things like tawbah, things like shukr, yani things like the love of Allah and cultivating the love of Allah and talking to Allah and things like this that will bring your connection with Allah stronger. If you progressively keep doing more of this, you're gonna strengthen your heart, and the more you strengthen your heart, the easier it's gonna be to deny shaitan. Easier it's gonna get over and over and over again because your heart doesn't want it. Because I told you, and I've said this, I don't think I said this in the course. The reality is that you want to do haram. And yes, we're stuck in a habit and we can go through that, but at the end of the day, you want to. Why? Because it's nice. And so what we have to do is make it not nice. We have to make it nicer for the connection of Allah than not the other. Go apply these things. Go and see if they're valuable. If you think they're valuable, then inshallah subscribe to the channel because I'm going to give lots of communication about when the course is coming out. Wallah, I'm super excited, right? Like I love Allah has blessed me with the fact that like, well, I am very grateful. I don't sell like a garbage. I've done it before. I've sold products I don't believe in, and like I've sold even when I did the memberships and then I did the and coaching. I didn't believe in it. I didn't think I was gonna help people with it, and I think that's why I didn't talk about it a lot. But this, wallah, this is so awesome, and I feel great about it, and I feel so happy with it, and I'm not even close to done. Like I'm still filming the module of Tazkiyah Nafs and Jihad al-Nafs still. But wallahi, I put my heart and soul into this. Wallah, every single day. And so I'm super excited about it launch. I'm super excited to share it with you guys. And just subscribe to the channel so you can get the utmost information and check the description if there's any changes. It's going to be out there. I will totally put it out in community posts, and that's where information on the course will be. I hope you found value in this. I hope that you keep fighting Jihad al-Nafs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your fast if you're fasting, because it's still Ramadan when I'm recording this. Ameen. And yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.